Hello and welcome to God's View. We're so glad you joined us today. Remember, while we're going through the show, to call those prayer lines, 307-637-PRAY. We're seeing miraculous things on the prayer line, signs, wonders, and miracles. So don't go through anything alone. Just call. I hear it all the time. You're just clicking through the channel, found us, and wanted prayer. And that's such a blessing to us, and we really do take it serious. And I know the power of agreement on this earth, and we want to agree with you, because a lot of people say, oh, we'll just pray, we'll just pray, we'll just pray. And then there's not true agreement, but we really want to take it to the throne. Like if I asked for a prayer request from you, I would really want you to take it to the throne and believe. So while we're going through the program, it's always behind my head when we have a full shot, and periodically across the bottom of the screen. So welcome. We're so glad. I'm going to introduce us. I'm Charlene Back-to-Marion, your God's View host. We have back with us, many of you know Sean. He once in a while comes and hosts for us, and it's Priscilla's husband. So Sean Pruitt, Priscilla Pruitt, and this is like Sean Pruitt Back-to-Marion, Priscilla Pruitt Back-to-Marion.
I'm honored.
And then we have our fiery redhead, Lana Gardner. Lana Gardner, because we don't do the wildly, but she does have another name, but you all know her by all social media and everything is Lana Garner, so we leave it that way. So anyways, and then we have a very special guest with us today. He is a pastor at City Point Church in Loveland, Colorado. He's like the associate right under the lead pastors, and it's Pastor Rick Scadden. And if you want to get a hold of him at any time during the program, and we're going to welcome him to the program here in a minute, you can go to Scadden at citypointchurch.com. Now, that's always going to be across the bottom of the screen periodically, so if you missed it, you'll get it again. So won't you help us welcome Pastor Rick to the program?
Thanks for having me. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you. You just roll with it, because we like our guests to be able to get all the time, because God's doing something through them, and your testimony, I'm sure, is going to set people free. So let's go for it, Rick.
Well, I'm honored to be here. I do have a beautiful wife named Lacey, who's at home right now with our 3 beautiful children, Sadie, Amariah, and Josiah, who is 15 months old. And so I do have 2 twin girls. So a little bit of a funny story about my twins before I get into my testimony. So we were prophesied that we were supposed to have twins at our wedding.
Oh, wow.
So our officiant at our wedding,
that's awesome.
as he was giving the ceremony, started talking about, when the twins are acting up, you guys can come together as a marriage and get through it. And it was just a weird thing to talk, to hear while you're at your wedding. And forgot all about it, and here we are, 3 months married, pregnant. We go to get the ultrasound, and the lady says, hey, I have a surprise for you. And she says, I see 2 heads. And so my reaction, though, was like, how many bodies are there? What are you talking about? There's 2 heads. I thought it was like a 2-headed baby monster. Like, what are you talking about? She goes, no, there's twins. There's twins in the belly. And I said, oh my gosh. And then it all just came rushing back. And I said, oh my gosh, he said we were going to have twins. So it was the most scared time I've ever been in my life, but also the greatest blessing I could ever receive. So we have twin girls. They're 6 years old. They're incredible. And then we just had a son not too long ago as well. And I'll get into that a little bit later on in my story, but that's kind of a fulfillment of one of God's promises as well in my story, to have my son, and how we named him Josiah, and how that all came about.
Love that
and
name.
Stuff like that. But my story is kind of different. I mean, it's a pretty intense story. It's the original prodigal son story. And from where I grew up and what I grew up in, we didn't have a lot growing up as a child. I mean, we were, your typical lower class family. We were on welfare, food stamps. My parents were very young when they had us, so they didn't have a lot of money. They were addicted to drugs, alcohol. There was parties in the house all the time.
Wow.
We moved from house to house, city to city. Living in different areas. Just to kind of give you a little of a background. I mean, I smoked weed for the first time when I was 7. If you can kind of just get that in your head. I mean, my girls are 6. They're going to be in 2nd grade next year. They're going to be 7.
Wow.
And when I think back to that, I'm like, holy cow, like a year from now, that's when I first smoked weed.
Wow.
It didn't continue. I mean, that's when I tried it. I wasn't hooked on it back then. So just to give you a little bit of perspective of kind of where I came from. I mean, it wasn't the greatest environment growing up.
Wow.
And I didn't know about it until I got older and looking back upon it, that's kind of when it was like, holy cow, like that is not.
And Rick, if any time, I didn't tell you, if you have something special to say, that's your camera right there.
Okay,
just
good.
right in front. Anything special,
Absolutely,
anytime,
yeah.
that's
Speak to
your camera.
them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's just a little bit of a background of kind of where I came from. My parents divorced when I was 8. My dad was in and out of jail pretty much my whole young life. I do have an older brother and an older sister from my dad's first wife, who were kind of in the same boat. My brother was, a runaway from home. My sister got pregnant when she was 15. I mean, it was just not an ideal environment to be raising up.
No
I'm a great
Jesus.
dad now.
You're
Yeah,
a
no
great
Jesus.
daddy and
Yeah,
husband.
I mean, the only Jesus we had was
Jesus.
my dad's mom, my grandma. Who spoke a little bit into our lives, but it wasn't nothing. I mean, it was totally non-existent in our household.
Yeah.
But look what God could do. You're so preppy and
I
so
know.
perfect.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I am God's son, and just something that or somebody that God can do,
Yeah,
miracles for. I mean, the redemption story in my story is what God does every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not something that is new to him. Like, we
Exactly.
hear about Kanye West and what's going on with him. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Because
Me
that's what
neither.
God does.
It's an answer to a lot of
Yeah.
parents'
He
prayers.
he does it all the time,
God.
and now I hear that Lamar Odom. I don't know if you guys know. He
Yes.
was,
Yeah.
he gave his life to Christ.
Yeah.
I seen a post that Puff Daddy was actually at T.D. Jake's church the other day. He brought his family to his church to experience a true gospel church.
Wow.
So it's already beginning, and it's starting, and but that's nothing new to God. Right? He's in the business of redemption. He's in the business of taking people from point A and taking them to point B, from the muck into into His glory.
Yes.
But so when my parents divorced, I ended up going to move with my dad. I just wanted to be with him. He was in and out of jail, but I'm a daddy's boy.
Of course.
Yeah.
I love my dad.
Yeah.
We did not have the best relationship as I got older, but I wanted to go live with him. So from the age of 9 to 15, there was moments of peace in my home. I mean, my dad remarried. He met a girl that he met actually in jail while he was in there, and so when she got out of jail, when they both got out of jail, they got together, and we kind of had a peaceful home. Like I said, every now and then, I mean, there were still drugs in the household. There were still parties in the household. My dad, he sold drugs as well. So it was just, this is the lifestyle, but this is all I knew. I mean, I still went to school every day. I was on kind of the lunch program for free lunches. It was just, it was still the lower class food stamps, growing up and all those things. But eventually, I started coming around to the point to where I started to experiment with drugs. Experiment with a little bit more weed, a little bit of drinking, getting into that stuff. I mean, I would go up in my dad's room and steal it from him and stuff like that. And I'm only in 3rd grade at this time.
Wow.
You just think
That's like
about how
9.
young kids are.
8
Yeah,
years
I mean,
old?
that's
Oh,
9,
9,
8, 9 years old. Yeah. And it just wasn't the best of environment to be in. At the age of 15, I really started to experiment really heavy on drugs, the little bit heavier stuff, methamphetamines, cocaine, ecstasy, everything. It didn't matter what it was. The only drug I never tried was actually heroin, and I never shot up any drugs. That's not to say it's okay, but, at the same time, it's
not
like, I'm
okay. I
glad
did
I never
that.
went that road, because that would have been a whole nother level that I didn't want to be a part of. So, growing up in my house, like I said, my dad was in and out of jail. Well, he ended up going to prison for like a year and a half.
For drugs?
Yeah, for drugs. He got into a really bad accident one time, almost lost his life. He had a lot of drugs in the car, which is kind of funny because it plays out into my story as I get further into the story. But he, got into a really bad car accident, almost lost his life.
Wow.
Bit off half of his tongue, broke his hip. Broke his jaw. They had to wire his jaw shut for like 6 months. I mean, it was incredible. But he got a ticket for that because they found drugs in the car, and he had to go to court and do all that. Well, he ended up running from the cops, and he was running from the cops for I want to say about 3 months, 4 months, and then but eventually he got caught, and all of us kids we're in the house and we're like, well, what are we gonna do? So I ended up going to stay with my grandma. My brother and sister just kind of left the house, and it was just kind of one of those situations of like, okay, Dad's gone, what am I going to do?
Now, is this your Christian grandmother?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
yeah. So I ended up going to stay with her.
Good.
But that didn't help my situation at all,
Oh, yeah.
because I was already under it, and it was
Yes.
almost like the only
Yes.
child type situation, where I was there, it was just me, I could do whatever I want. Grandma's, she's naive. She doesn't know what I'm doing, you know. So I just kind of kept getting deeper and deeper into the situation. Well, something cool happened to my dad while he was in prison. He ended up giving his life to Christ, and which was something that, you know, was totally out of nowhere. You know, all of a sudden he's writing us about Jesus. He's sending us, you know, things about Jesus,
Praise
and I'm
God.
like, well, you know, it's almost like, well, who is this guy? You know, right? Like, you know, what do you? But for me, it was like, well, you need to prove, Dad, that this is really who you are.
Yeah.
You know. So, but he ended up getting out, and he was legit. I mean, we started going to
Praise
church.
God.
He started getting his life back together, and that's how I came to know Jesus, was through him.
Praise God.
Wow.
You know,
Praise God.
Awesome.
For your dad to lead you.
Whatever
to the
it
Lord.
takes.
I mean, absolutely. You know, and my brother,
Praise
same deal.
God.
When we started going to church, you know, you hear the gospel a couple times, and you know, you don't give your life right away. At least I didn't, and it took a few times for me to give my life to Christ. But then eventually I did, and it was one of those drastic, complete, you know, 180 changes. My brother, the same deal. I mean, he gave his life to Christ. It was just instantaneous.
Praise the
You
Lord.
know, got rid of all of our gear. I mean, you know, old CDs and drug habits.
Wow.
So you got saved and then had an accident, or you had all that prior to?
No.
Dad.
So my dad had an accident.
Yes.
but I did have an
You
accident
did.
afterward.
Yes. Okay, you did.
Yeah.
I remember somebody telling
I
me
told
that.
her this
yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was just one of those complete 180-degree changes. My dad was doing good. He had his
Wonderful.
own business. We were doing good. We weren't doing any more drugs. I mean, we're just
Thank
on
you,
fire for
Jesus.
Jesus. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a complete transformation. But I didn't have any discipleship. You know, nobody took me under their wing and said, hey, you know, let me show you how to walk this out. I knew I loved Jesus. I knew that, you know, I was a worshiper and I loved to worship. I wanted to give my life to this, but there was one moment that kind of defined my life and forever, really. I was in my room listening to worship music, and I heard two voices that night. One voice said, you haven't lived your life anymore. Why are you doing what you're doing?
Oh,
You
yeah.
haven't lived your life yet. Why are you doing what you're doing? You're still too young. But the other voice said, the girl that you are with now, I don't want you to be with her. And I guess you could probably guess which voice was which.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I mean, I'm only 16 at this time. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I want to be with my girl. She's my high school sweetheart. And you know what? You're right. I haven't lived my life yet. Why am I giving my life to this? There's still things I want to do.
Oh,
Wow.
So in that moment, I flipped. I completely changed. I turned my back on God. I started listening to my old music again. I started hanging out with my old friends again. I started getting back into all the drugs again. And it was just one of those moments that like I said, defined my life forever.
Yes, it did, huh?
It was incredible. Nobody took me under their wing though and said, "Hey, let me help you. You know, let me help you through this." You know, that's why I'm really big on discipleship right now, because when you give your life to Christ, people need to know. I mean, they need to know how to walk this out. They need to know who's talking to them. They need to know what voices are in their head. They need to know, you know, that voice you weren't supposed to listen to.
Right.
Yes.
This one, yes. If he's telling you to get rid of your girlfriend, you need to. You know,
Yes.
he has something better for you.
Yeah.
You know?
That's right.
So, but I didn't. So, anyways, I went on this 3 to 4 year kick of depression, of anger, of addiction. I fell harder and harder in the drugs. I mean, I was down to 110 pounds at one point during my drug addiction. I got really hard into selling drugs. I got really involved in gangs at that point in time. It was just one of those, you know, lifestyle changes where, you know, it says in the Bible that, you know, when you clean your house, be careful you don't let the
Yeah,
demons back in,
7
because they'll
times.
come 7 times.
Sevenfold, yes.
It was 7 times full. I mean,
Wow.
it wasn't, I mean, it was full-fledged.
Yeah.
And even in myself, and I'm so glad the Holy Spirit never leaves you, because at every single turn, every single moment, every single decision that I made, He was always there telling me, hey, stop. You don't want to do that.
Right.
You don't want to do that.
Wow.
So I was convicted the whole time. I mean, at every single turn, He is there telling you, do not do this.
Yes.
Amen.
And I'm so thankful for that never left me. But in the middle of my prodigal living, if you will, I completely tried to shut that voice off. I didn't want nothing to do with it. I wanted to live my own life, but He didn't leave me alone. And He was always there knocking.
Thank you,
He was
Holy
always there
Spirit.
knocking
Thank you.
at the door of my heart. Well,
Thank you.
so fast forward 3 years, the girl that he told me I wasn't supposed to be with, I proposed to her. We were supposed to be getting married. We were supposed to be getting married on July 10th of 2004. And so July 4th is actually kind of a big deal holiday for my family. We always get together. We always celebrate. We always party. And I had just gotten done with Actually just got done partying all night in the mountains with some of my best men for the wedding. It was kind of our little get together and stuff. We were coming back and we were going to my mom's house for this party. And she always threw a big, celebration for the 4th of July. And, I went there. Of course, there's drinking, there's drugging, everybody's partying, everybody's having a good time. Well, I noticed that this girl that I was supposed to be marrying and my best man, they were kind of acting a little funny.
Oh, dear Jesus.
If you know where I'm going a little bit.
Yep.
They were just trying to be together
Wow.
by themselves and, stuff like that. So then I confronted
Yeah.
them at the end of the night and said, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they told me that they had been sleeping with each other.
Oh, Lord Jesus, that's so
And
painful.
this best man was actually literally like my brother, but not brother.
Yeah.
Grew up with him, cried together. I mean, this guy I loved. He was one of my best friends. I brought him up from Kansas to put him in my house to help. It was one of those things. And in that moment, I remember I was so drunk though. I literally wanted to kill somebody. Literally.
Wow.
Yeah.
And thank God that we were at my mom's house because I didn't want to cause a scene. I was like, I'm going to leave and I'll see you guys later. So I got into my truck, again, just hammered, completely hammered. I had been up for probably 3 days prior to that. So I was up 3 days prior to that, completely hammered, got into the car and drove off. I spun out of the cul-de-sac. I ran 3 red lights before I ran a 4th one and T-boned somebody going through the intersection. When I hit him, I was going about 70 miles an hour. I hit him on the driver's side of his car.
Oh,
My
Jesus.
truck spun around, and it hit the curb, and I remember kind of passing out in that moment. One thing that really comes to mind when I tell this story is when I hit the guy, I immediately felt protection on my body.
Wow.
It was as if God's angels just kind of protected me. I didn't get hurt at all. When the truck came to the stop, I kind of opened my door. I got out, kind of stumbled to the curb and then passed out. Woke up in the ambulance, handcuffed to the bed. Passed out again, woke up in the hospital. And the whole time I'm asking, is he okay? The other driver, is he okay? Is he okay? Is he okay? And they're telling me, yeah, he's fine. Passed out again, woke up another time, and there was a cop there, and he was basically reading me my rights and telling me, hey, asking me questions. Well, I did have some drugs in the truck. I had a half a pound of methamphetamines in the back of the truck. I had a scale, I had baggies.
Wow.
Because we were out partying the night before up in the mountains, I had all of my guns in the truck. Every single gun you could imagine.
holy
So
God.
I had
Wow.
9 guns in there.
Oh, they thought he was
9?
on a-
Yeah.
9 guns, yeah.
Why do you need 9 guns?
Well, we were in the mountains shooting, so
Yeah.
it was a mistake. Like it wasn't like I was trying. I did have a couple guns that I always carried with me all the time in there.
They thought you were dangerous.
They thought I was Al Capone. I mean, it was
Yes.
like.
Oh, dear
So another thing that
Jesus.
happened was I had a glass of liquor that was there. It was all over the place.
Lord.
I had a
goodness.
box of 12 gauge shotgun shells sitting on my dash. So when I hit the gentleman, they basically exploded all over the truck, and when I opened the door, they fell out on the ground.
Oh
So
my
you can
gosh.
literally imagine what the cops were
Oh,
thinking
wow.
when they're walking up to this truck.
That is
Oh, my
awful.
gosh.
And they're looking, and they got all these shotgun shells. It smells like liquor. They see all these guns, and then they go to searching. They find all this methamphetamine. I mean, it was insane.
Oh man.
That could be life.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Thank God
absolutely.
you didn't get life, but we'll get to that. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, cops arrest me. Nothing's wrong with me at the hospital. I'm fine. A couple scratches
Wow.
here, but that's pretty much it. Go to jail, and that kind of starts, the beginning of my downward, or not. Well, I guess I couldn't say the beginning. I mean, that just kind of fueled more of my downward spiral.
Oh my God.
Obviously, the wedding's over.
Yeah.
I'm not getting married.
Boy, yeah.
Well, that was a good thing.
I know,
That
right?
was a good
Well,
thing.
think back to when God told me not to be with her.
Not
Yeah.
to be with her.
He was protecting me from that.
Yes.
I wish I would have listened.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have had to
such a
go
good
through all of this.
When you had to go
I wouldn't have had to go through all
like the
this.
Israelites
Yeah.
on that mountain.
I'm telling you, we make bad decisions a lot in our life, and a lot of the times God is trying to stop us from going around that mountain one more time.
That's so
One more time.
Yep. Yep.
One more time. So, anyways, I'm locked up. I'm in county jail. Life is crazy. I'm scared for my life. I think I'm going away forever. Life is over for me at this point. And about 2 weeks of being in the county jail, all of a sudden I get bonded out. And I'm like, well, who bonded me out? Because I had a $100,000 bond. I didn't have any money. You know, I mean, all my money was in the truck, and you know, it's all drug money and tied up, and you know, you don't have any bank accounts or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
sure.
nobody could get to it. And it was my supplier. Like he basically bonded me out. And at this point in time, though, so when I was in county jail, man, I knew I had to come back to Christ.
Supplier, though.
I knew I had to come back to Christ. I knew, you know, what I wanted to do, and I rededicated my life back at that point. But when I got bonded out by my supplier, he basically he came to my house and he gave me another pound of methamphetamine, and he said, "Go get you a lawyer." And I thought,
You were beholden.
okay, you know, do it. And then I'm right back in it, right? I'm
Yeah.
right back in the
Yeah.
selling. I'm right back into the doing. You know,
That's
life
how
is
we get
crazy.
Yes, your supplier.
So anyways, I picked up 4 more felonies while I was out on bond. I picked up another. I did.
Jesus.
I picked up another possession with intent to distribute. I picked up a second-degree burglary charge.
When you are out of jail.
Actually, two second-degree burglary charges, and that when finally, you know, I got picked up out of state on bond. I wasn't trying to run. I was going out to Kansas for a friend's house. Got pulled over by the state patrol, and I think they knew that I was out of state because they didn't ask for the driver's license. They asked for my ID, and I wasn't driving. And so they got my ID, came back to the car, locked me up, and that was it. So that was January 21st of 2005.
Oh, great, my birthday.
Is it really? Well, that's actually
it's
the
a good
day.
day, right?
It is a good day because I celebrate that day as the day I got sobered.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because that was the
Good.
day, the last day that I've ever had a drop of alcohol, any sort of, you know, substance,
Good.
anything was on that
Praise
day.
God.
So, and that was
That's
15
great.
years ago.
That's great.
Wow.
So that started my journey in the system, and you know, so I was locked up. They pulled my bond. I couldn't get out. Went to my court dates, and then got sentenced. The judge ended up giving me 12 years for the vehicular homicide. I got 8
Oh,
years.
he did die.
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't tell that
Yeah,
story,
you didn't
didn't
say
I? Oh
because
my
I knew
gosh.
somebody died.
Yeah,
Oh my
you
gosh.
were telling me.
I did
knew
not
you
tell
hit
that
him. You
story.
kept saying,
That
"Is
was
he
very
okay?
important.
Is
Okay,
he
so anyways,
okay?" Yeah.
let me back up a little bit because that
Yes.
is the key to my
Yes.
story.
Oh,
So when I was out on bond, you know, I started working with my dad a little bit, and you know, I get the phone call from my lawyer, and he says, "Rick, I'm sorry to tell you, but the charge for vehicular assault has changed to vehicular homicide.
oh, brother.
Stephen died." So the guy's that I hit name was Stephen, and I can't tell you the feeling that I felt in that moment. It was when you take somebody's life,
Jesus.
especially by accident, there's no feeling that you'll ever feel again. And it's a feeling that I carry with me today. I still have the image of his face in my brain from right before I hit him in the driver's seat. You know, and I grabbed on my dad. I cried, you know, my eyes out for about 40 minutes. I mean, it was just, and then I left. And that's when I picked up the other felonies. So, you know, I was trying to fly right up until that point. And then after that, it was like, I'm done. I ain't never getting out of prison. I don't care about my life. I'm just going to downward spiral even more. So that's when I picked up the felonies.
You gave yourself your own death sentence. You
Pretty
were
much.
done.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, and I gave up at that point. So, you know, fast forward to when, you know, I go through the sentencing, you know, they ended up giving me 12 years for that. I did have a paid lawyer, a really good paid lawyer, so that helped me out a lot because otherwise I probably would still be in prison right
Oh,
now.
yes.
Oh,
With
yeah.
all the felonies
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
death and the, yeah. No way would you. It was just God. Your
Absolutely.
life. It was just God.
Absolutely.
only.
I mean, one of the plea agreements that I pled to was they would drop the special offenders charge, which is the guns and drugs. So anytime you get involved with guns and drugs
Guns
together,
and drugs together
that's a
is
federal
bad.
crime.
Wow.
And you get more time for that.
Yeah.
And if you get federal time, you have to do at least, I think it's 80% of that time before you even get out or even can apply. So I pled to dropping that charge if I would have pled guilty to the vehicular homicide. I'm like, done. I mean, I did it. Like,
Right.
I'm not going to get away from that. So
Smart
I will
move.
plead to that. So they gave me 12 years for that. They gave me 8 years for the drugs that they found in the truck. Because of the amount of it, it was 8 to 16 years was and so they gave me the low end. I got another 8 years for the possession with intent to distribute out of Denver County, and then I got another 5 years for the second degree
It was just
burglary
only
charge.
God you're sitting here right now. Only
So
by
how many
God.
years was that
Miracle.
altogether?
So
Depends on what
total, let me see, 8, 20, 28, 29, 30, 30, so 33 total.
Wow.
They ran my charges concurrent, which basically means that the 12 years for the vehicular homicide was the max that I would do. So here's a little kicker to that. The guy that I hit, Stephen, he was a district judge's son in Adams County.
Oh, boy.
Which was the county that I did that in.
Wow.
He was a former district judge, though. I mean, he was retired, but he
they
was
all knew him.
well known in the county. Very well known.
God, because he's just
So when I found that out, it was one of those moments of like, are you kidding me? Like, how much worse could this get?
Right, because
Yeah.
every
You know.
judge
Yeah.
is going to come down harder
Absolutely.
on you because that's their friend's
Life
son.
without
Absolutely. I mean, we tried to get it.
Wow.
We tried to get it switched from Adams County to another county. They wouldn't allow it. But I'm very blessed and fortunate to only get 12 years, for a crime like that.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, that's
That's a
it's-
miracle in itself.
It's a miracle. I mean, it's a
Miracle.
miracle. I'm
Yeah, with
sitting
all those
here. It's a
felonies,
miracle
bam,
that
bam,
God did what He did. When I tell this story, I always like to give honor to Stephen because he literally unknowingly sacrificed his life to save mine.
Yeah.
He didn't have to die.
Right.
It was an accident, and I'm sorry for that. But I'm not going to let his death go in vain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not going to allow what he went through to be vain, because if I continue to live my life the way I was living, his death would have been in vain.
Exactly.
Yes.
He died for a cause,
Yes.
and I'm going to live my life to prove that.
Yes.
So anyways, I go to prison. I'm in prison. It's a scary experience. It's an experience that I wish nobody would ever have to experience.
Oh my God!
I went to some of the worst prisons there are in Colorado. I've seen some of the worst people. I've witnessed some of the worst in-prison beatings and riots and stuff like that. I mean, it wasn't a pleasant experience by any means, but I felt God's
Can
grace.
we come back
Absolutely.
with a second show? Can we come back with a? Can you stay?
Yeah.
For a second show?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah.
we got to say goodbye to Rick right now, but listen, stay tuned because we will have a second program
Yes.
you can watch next week, and wherever, I don't know where you are, you'll be in Trinidad and Tobago, but we're going to do 2 parts with this. So if you didn't see part 1, you'll want to see it, and we're going to go into part 2. It's too amazing of a story, set too many people free. Listen, if you don't know him, if you don't know Jesus, this is what happened to Rick.
Yes.
He became a follower of Jesus, and Jesus set him free, got him out of prison, did all the things, gave him a good wife and kids, and you heard his testimony. And I mean, after being driving drunk and on drugs and everything else, and ended up taking somebody's life because of that. Listen, Jesus died for you, and it's so simple. Everybody who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved, and all you got to do is say, Jesus, come into my life, forgive me of my sins. I need you. My life is a mess, and he'll come in, and you can get baptized with the Holy Spirit with fire, and it'll give you the power to walk out this life. But it's easy. You just confess with your mouth, believe in your heart, you merge those 2, and you're saved. And then let him do the rest of it. Don't wait to clean up. That's what the devil tells you. Well, you've just done it. You're just a mess. Everything's so bad. Just keep on going. Just keep on. This thing's never going to get better. Of course he wants you that way so that you won't receive Jesus. But give him a chance today. I mean, I'll tell you, your life will never be the same. And if you did that, call 307-637-PRAY. That's 7729. And, also, if you need to speak to Rick, go to our Scadden at citypointchurch.com.